'Cause I'm on top of the world, eh? I'm on top of the world, eh? Been waiting on this for a while now, paying my dues to the dirt. I've been waiting this.
It's finally here, Jason. The springtime is here. Snow is starting to melt a little bit, and we're going to work on threshold. Tell us a little bit about the climbing phase. I know we call it the climbing phase. That's kind of a little bit misleading, especially here in the Midwest where the climbs are short and hard. This is going to be a lot more about building that functional threshold power. And I think Jason's done a great job of balancing both VO2 and threshold to really help these athletes grow.
And even though we don't have those long climbs in this area, this is something, the functional threshold power is the major energy system that people use for climbing. For a lot of people that travel to big events, those often feature these big climbs, and so that's sort of how this name came for this phase. The fundamental thing that we're working on here, building functional threshold power, is long, sustained intervals at threshold power, just a little bit below, up to about 100% of that power. And so we're going to do a couple of different things. You can challenge the system both with intensity and with volume. So we're going to have alternate weeks that increase the amount of volume you spend at 95% of your threshold intensity, and then you're also going to have weeks where you gradually increase the amount of power that you hold for about 30 minutes worth of effort. So you're having a week that's fairly high intensity, getting harder as this phase progresses, and then weeks that keep that intensity the same, and then also build the duration of those intervals as you progress too. We'll also mix in some VO2 type work, some really high-end stuff, and challenge that upper energy system because it works very well with the threshold system and prepares people for more race-oriented efforts as they get outside.
Now guys, over the last, 4 or 5 months, you guys have been building the engine to support this growth of FTP. You've worked on your strength endurance. You've built your high-end VO2. Some of you guys have went and done training camps and built that aerobic system. It all kind of like comes to a point here during this next 8 weeks of training called your FTP. And Jason talked a little bit about it, but this is the maximal sustainable power you can hold for up to an hour. And guys, we're going to spend a little time above that FTP, that hour of power. We're going to spend some time below that FTP. If we're close to it, we're going to be growing that energy system if we're sustaining that for at least 8, 10, 15 minutes at a time. And you're going to see some big weeks, especially if you're doing both intensities. And what I want to encourage everybody to do, even if you've been coming to Vision Quest and only riding once a week, I want you to try riding both intensity days for a couple of reasons. That threshold energy system really works well when you put a lot of time at that threshold power or close to it. Then, to complement that, we want to keep that engine big. You're going to get outside and do some high-intensity group rides as well in the spring. We want to make sure we maintain that VO2. So both intensity days, I strongly encourage you to do it for these next 8 weeks.
'Cause I'm on top of the world, eh? I'm on top of the world.